Alright guys, so we're through to one of the losers bracket games between Thiefy and Stowe versus AJIV and Beuk. So an interesting series because the loser of this actually goes home from here. The winner progresses further through the losers bracket. Sorry guys, just adjusting camera speed because it's actually a little bit munted on the replay system at the moment. Doesn't matter if you got it minimized like I do, you can get this ugly quick scroll speed. But a lot of walls going up here for AJIV. So AJIV and Beuk I think are some pretty high level treaty players, so they're going to be probably really good at the defensive game. But I think Thiefy and Stowe, more conventional deathmatch players, going to play quite aggressively and quite boomy. Be quite expansive. Then they might wall up a little bit, but they probably won't worry so much about it so quickly. Really focus on forward building if their civs really play into it. And I think they do in this case with a Russian-German combo here. But the treaty players, they're not going to do anything wrong in terms of their attacking position. They're going to get really early churches as well. So they're going to be able to print shipments along the way to help them defend through the initial pushing and help them get the walls up in time. And try and play it like their later treaty games. So right now there already is a push here from Thiefy. And he's going to face a lot of horse guns hitting just in time, so AJIV going to get a lot of good kills on these muskets. Very expensive unit. Going to face guard rangers. So these guys are the skirm unit for the British. And war wagons deep inside Beuk's base, but it looks like he's got enough riders to deal with it at the moment. There's more war wagons streaming in, and he's even got some Apache cavalry, so that's going to let him hit above his pop cap at the moment, in the sense that they don't actually take any like other military units will. So really nice aggressive opening here from the north side, but this south side treaty team seems to be defending quite well amidst all this pressure. Walls going up now for Thiefy, and I think Stowe not so worried at the moment because for now he's really got the aggression game up his sleeve, but I do think the treaty guys probably have a little bit more in the bank at the moment. Beuk definitely having taken a good engage, and he's probably going to go for a defensive use of the fort here, or sneak this right to the back of the map and try and hold off long enough to be able to use it aggressively. But Thiefy already has a fort on the doorstep of AJIV at the moment, but AJIV really nice fighting composition here, so he's basically gonna stay maxed out or very close to here, and that's a big commitment in terms of the number of howitzers there, because I don't think they can actually attack enemy units as such. They're really only going to be used to help clear the walls and try and destroy all these buildings of the opponent, but they can't take fights. And like I said, big pop commitment at 4 population apiece when there's that many of them for Thiefy, and he really needs to get them into a spot where they're actually focusing down the houses now, forcing a population cap for the British player and forcing him into the spot where he's actually going to build that many manors. He might need to look at deleting some workers early to hold out against this initial push, or just get them instantly on resources and, you know, distract him. But right now Beuk seems to be really holding off Stowe's push at the moment. But that aggressive fort and all these well-placed blockhouses are going to make this quite difficult for a shove out for AJIV, so he's probably going to need to fit some of his own mortars in behind this push. Be careful to not get too many. But yeah, Thiefy really could just probably look at creeping forward and maybe even taking out some of these estates. I mean, I know it's a risk, but if he leaves 2 or 3 to do that, sends a couple sort of around the map to try and pressure Beuk somewhere as well, maybe try and hit his banks or his houses, it could be really quite effective. Because we're readying up with some howitzers here for Don Stowe, so he might look at creeping forward with those, but he's going to be careful not to lose them. He will be fighting under his own towers, which is great as the Dutch player creeps forward on him now. This engagement still going strong. Culverin's in the mix now to try and deny horse gun usage by the Russian player, and there are some mortars, some howitzers on the way to try and deal with the fortress. But it looks like the south side team is slowly gaining ground over the north side team at the moment, and they are creeping ahead in terms of score, so I think they've got a little bit more in the bank behind all this, so the defensive opening's really faring them quite well at the moment. And if these rushes do crumble, then, you know, if you lose dramatically enough and you don't have the eco to replenish behind it, and I mean, Thiefy's got 38 vils, Don Stowe's got 18, AJIV 37, and 24 to Beuk, so neither team really committing to a heavy eco, or no one player really able to commit to a heavy eco transition behind this. So basically whoever runs out of steam first is going to more or less lose their little 1v1 engage, and then it's going to probably mean a bit of a 2v1 and a pretty quick finish from there if they're not careful. But I mean, if they do manage to stabilize, and they are all pouring out the villages now, they may be okay to take this lake, and that fortress does fall there for Thiefy, so AJIV buying himself a bit of space at the moment. He's even got the howitzers really tearing down the blockhouses at the moment, which is great for him. Beuk trying to get some space to fit the estate in, and I guess it sort of buys a bit of time for the factory and the fort if it gets focused first. So Don Stowe having to back up a little bit. There's a bit of a raid going on here for Thiefy, so he's managed to sneak this one in, and the howitzers are creeping forward, but they're sort of stuck. I don't know, they're going to get picked off, and I guess they've more or less been lost pop, because they didn't really get used to focus down any buildings as such, other than to cut a hole in the wall, and they're not going to make it all the way to deal with the factory. I think there's not quite enough of these, how do you say that? I don't know how to say it. I'm not going to try. I don't know if there might be just enough for them to snipe the factory, actually. Oh, it's going to be tight. There's 4 left, 3, 2, and they do get the factory in the end. So AJIV down a factory there. And Don Stowe is creeping forward once again on Beuk, who hasn't really been able to leave his base at all here. The Southside players haven't really been able to get away with any form of raiding at the moment, even though they've got a much nicer wall off, I think. I think there's just enough of a wall off that it's a little difficult to try and... Well, this hasn't even been finished here by Don Stowe. And Thiefy does have a bit of a gap there. So the Southside players unable to raid thus far, and eco-wise, Thiefy and Don Stowe, we got 65 vils now for Thiefy, so he's done a great job at booming up behind this. Don Stowe, meanwhile, only 37 vils for him. AJIV 72, 35 for Beuk, and he's being Dutch. He's got all those banks and doesn't really have quite the settler cap to begin with. Really nice shot there from one of those horse guns, really putting the value into this army. But at the same time, he might just get overwhelmed here, Don Stowe. I don't know if he's really got the food to keep pushing at this rate. He's going to have to regather and hunker down under his outpost for the minute and really try and get that eco roaring once again. Thiefy going to take both of these trading posts in the meanwhile. Man, AJIV with the walls. How many layers is this? It's got 4 layers of walls there. Nice defensive spot for him. But Thiefy's now walling up just as hard. It's got another fortress now. So it's going to make this a tight choke for AJIV to push into. And Thiefy has done a really good job at 77 vils behind this. AJIV also 83, so these guys on the south side definitely playing the heavy eco game, while Stowe and Beuk have really played a more aggressive game, and now the fighting on their side of the map has sort of slowed down a little bit. I mean, Beuk's got a little bit more to defend with this insane number of skirms, and there's not really any artillery here to try and deal with this big ball of tightly packed infantry. So for now, on this north side things, I mean, they're still heating up because, I mean, Beuk trying to push forward with some howitzers, and there's a bunch of yawns coming out. So these guys trade really well into everything Beuk has in defense, but Stowe does sit at a bit of a disadvantage in terms of score, in terms of pop, in terms of money in the bank at the moment. So he's throwing really everything he's got at Beuk, and I think AJIV has probably got enough here that he might be able to assist Beuk for the minute. So, or I think Beuk might even just be able to sit far enough back in his base and rely on static defense for now, because there's no, the only artillery here is the Culves as such, so they're not going to really wreck anything over the wall here. They're not going to be able to focus down any buildings and put pressure on. The Thiefy's now coming to help support Stowe now, so this could really up the ante on that north side. But while this is going on, it means Beuk can look at pushing into Thiefy a little, and these muskets not really joining the fight at all, but they do force AJIV to send some rangers across, which, while they are going to be of a bit of a help to Beuk, if these if the falconets are able to connect with them, that can be insane damage to the infantry. While the muskets running back forward to help try and snipe a couple of the culves here. And these rangers are like a skirmish unit, so I think that's the most of AJIV's infantry comp there. Doesn't really have anything in the way of a musket unit now, so Cossack's going to be quite handy in this position. So that's a heap of the skirmisher units there, the guard rangers. So up against Strelets and Cossacks, it's not going to be a great fight for them. A couple of dragoons joining the mix, so Thiefy really able to make a bit of a push on AJIV here, but not forgetting the pair of these guys have such solid setup economies already. While it's the north side players that have really been struggling to get the eco going while this is going on. Both of them at 45 vils, 48 vils, while AJIV's at 89, and I think Thiefy was at 95. So at that sort of 89 to 95 mark is really where you want to be, I guess, in this position where you actually can afford to keep constantly maxing out. Whereas these guys on the north side, while they can field slightly bigger armies in theory at the moment, they just don't have enough to really defend. Like AJIV, sorry, Stowe and Beuk, both at about 115 population. So really they've only got 65 pop apiece in army, and you know, Thiefy and AJIV already basically have about 110 pop in army. So even though they've made that bigger investment in the eco, and I guess the civs probably play a bit of a hand into it. I mean, you're talking about British and Russian versus you know, Dutch and German, and in saying that the Dutch, without a lot of specific cards, it's very hard for them to really get past that 50 to 60 vil pop mark. And I suppose the banks are a good cover as well. But this is a huge amount of Strelets taking a fight over here. So Thiefy really buying Stowe a bit of time at the moment, I think. And he's sort of forcing a bit of a 1v2 trade over here, while he is sort of sieged up enough here on the lower side of the map that for now AJIV isn't really pushing into him at all. And now Stowe able to back Thiefy up here with his war wagons, but will these guys have enough? Because it looks like the south side team are going to try and push out that trading post already been taken by Beuk. And Thiefy fielding a massive infantry comp, and there's a couple of heavy horse guns to try and help out here. But these war wagons, I don't think there's a huge amount of muskets in this comp. It's mostly skirms, so, well, pretty much all skirms for the south side comp. So war wagons of Don Stowe is really able to deal quite a lot of damage here. Only now AJIV sending in some muskets, but they're on the other side of the fight, so they're fighting against Strelets, who I think win out on cost. And now there's a horse gun there of Don Stowe as well. Eager to push this all back, but plenty of goons out now on the field for AJIV. Fortress going up on the north side of the map, as well as that south side for Thiefy. So he wants to really pressure this south side team. Give himself and Don Stowe the space to do all the damage they need to do here with mortar run-bys and with cavalry run-bys. But these Strelets, I think, are pretty much going to go to waste in the sense that at the same time, well, they're going to buy time for this fort going up here, but at the same time, they did largely fall for free. Thiefy does have plenty in the bank right now, second to AJIV in score, so he and AJIV, like I said, really had that nice eco max quite early on. All this north side, it's been an up and down battle, and I mean, you got a Dutch player, so you're locked at 50 vils without committing to some specific cards, and the German player just slowly trickling in some more villages now behind all this. So I think Don Stowe might be a little bit slower with the villager, with the town center expansion, and probably not getting anything in the way of villager train speed card. The fort being focused down now by Beuk. He's going to have just enough mortars, I think, to get this down while this fight's going on, and I think Don Stowe managed to focus down one of the howitzers, but the other one surviving there. But that's a shitload of muskets now for Thiefy. He's spending all of his bank. He's really dipping on score while this is going on, but he's got stacks of muskets there. How many is that? Fuck, he's got like 50 muskets. Not a lot of anti-infantry siege at all, but there's plenty of skirms at the back of this fight, and they are going to have to deal with goons, but the goons can't make it to the front here to actually focus down and draw fire from all the rangers. Thank you for the follow. So howitzers of Thiefy's having to back off now, and another aggressive fortress attempt here from Thiefy. Looks like these cannons aren't going to be able to run past the outposts because AJIV just has so many outposts here. 14 of the buggers. But on this north side, it looks like Beuk's finally got a bit of breathing room, and the south side team seems to be able to creep forward. They've got a bit of a score lead now, so I think they've got a bit more in the bank and a bit more on the field. But Thiefy, let's just sneak a handful of Strelets through. I mean, these guys are quite cheap, and they will get torn to shreds by the fort if they stick around, the outpost, if they stick around too long. But in saying that, if they can snipe some vills from here, they can really turn things around for the north side team, because I think things are a bit rough for them, and all the Strelets really probably shouldn't be focusing down that outpost. It's rough for Thiefy. The rest of these guys, they might be able to go for the factory, so this is great for him. Because, I mean, I know the idea is to try and bait your opponent into going for these while these guys run over to the factory, but in saying that, like, send them over here or something. Send them where they're not going to get splat by 14 outposts at once. But Beuk holding on. He's not got a lot more score than Don at the moment, and he's trying to take this fight into both Don and Thiefy's Strelets, because that fortress now is going to be able to produce mad infantry. But the factory for AJIV for the moment is safe. And he's just managed to chip through the walls of Thiefy, so he might look at going for a push himself. He'd managed to sneak the Explorer all the way around onto the factory, but it was all for naught. Blockhouse taking it down. But AJIV has somehow managed to sneak a villager into the back of the base, so he's going to go for a proxy push. So phenomenal stuff from AJIV while this is going on, and Beuk is just holding off as he needs to at the moment. AJIV gonna come and support him. Well, I think the mortars, he's sort of not managing to control them in the meantime, but at least he's backing his opponent up and he's setting himself up with this wicked proxy. So he's actually going for petards over getting mortars at this stage, so I think he just wants to sack the factories as quickly as he possibly can, and if he can do so, you're quite a blow to the late game ecos of the players. So Thiefy trying to find a way, and he does. Beuk hasn't actually finished this wall up here, so he finds a way in with the, how do you even say that, Prichnik? But while this is going on, petards to sack the mills and the factories. Oh, that's dirty, dirty play, man. How did you get away with this, AJIV? While this is going on, he's really creeping forward as well, so these guys are buying themselves plenty of space and drawing the attention while this is going on. The factory's gonna get sniped. Even some pikemen here as well to try and take this down. Muskets too to follow. But while this is going, Thiefy's trying the same. He's raiding AJIV right now. They'd sniped one factory earlier of his. And he's been an economic powerhouse still through all this. The factory being saved once again. But Thiefy, things are looking rough. His second factory here is extremely low. So AJIV is gonna be able to snipe it, I think. He does snipe it, so it falls. And this proxy base is gonna keep being a bit of a pest. I think it's ultimately gonna be cleaned up, but there is still some petards heading through to Don Stowe's base, and I think this factory's not long for this world. Boom, it does fall. So 3 factories sniped there by AJIV all at once. Wonderful stuff, and he and Beuk now have plenty of map control. They're pushing up towards Don Stowe and all these barracks of his. Don Stowe having to tap out, and I think Thiefy as well. Not much left in the bank for him now that he's lost his factories. Plenty on the field. I nerfed myself for you, Thief. The smack talk, AJIV. The Tourney v deathmatch smack talk. So Thiefy trying to clean up the proxy base, but Don Stowe already tapped out. GG, well played, guys. So I wonder how much longer Thiefy's going to give it. Trying to wall off. I think maybe he hasn't even realised. Because I don't think you're 1v2ing from this position. Are players typing to each other or something? Is Thiefy just going to take down the proxy base out of spite and then resign? I think that might be the case, eh? Yeah, Thiefy GG from there. Well played for game number 1, guys.